Welcome to Wellness is a Way of Life, the podcast for female leaders seeking sustainable energy, clarity, and confidence. I'm Megan Swan, your guide on a journey to mastering wellness as an integrated part of your life. Let's explore personalized wellness strategies that truly resonate with who you are. Welcome, Ida. I'm just so honored to have you on the podcast today. You are a trailblazer, so inspirational. As the mother of the term FemTech, a mother of children, co-founder of Clue. I'm so curious to ask you about the book you're working on as well, and all things about traveling around the world via motorcycle. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Megan.
So I'd love to start your motherhood of the word FemTech. So that was about 10 years ago. How are you feeling that that child, if you will, is doing, and what are you optimistic about?
Well, it has definitely gotten a life of its own, which I think is great. I see so much energy around the world with women building FemTech. It seems to really have sort of been able to put a label on a lot of energy that I think was already there and has been growing since we came up with the term. And it's very encouraging because it really is one of the few areas in tech where women really are shaping tech and where they're building what they need. And that's wonderful to see because a lot of tech is being built by non-diverse groups that are building a world which is then again not really inclusive. So that gives me a lot of hope. It's also an area where a lot of pain is becoming visible because suddenly we can start talking about some of the things that hasn't been easy to talk about before, and then people articulate things that are actually very frustrating or very painful in their healthcare journeys, in their lives. So there's a lot of momentum and there's a lot of energy and there's also a lot of anger and a lot of unmet need.
Yeah, I like that you say anger. I really like teaching female founders how to channel our female rage for the good, keep us motivated and not discouraged. So you've really addressed one of the major themes in gender data, the gap in gender data. So I'd love if you could talk a little bit about, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of the flaws of Medicine 2.0, but the way in which Clue, the app that you co-founded and created that is available or being used in 190 countries, it's so incredible. How is it empowering women with their own data? And are you doing anything with that data out to sort of push the narrative forward and find other ways to help women understand themselves, their power, their bodies better?
We can see that when women have data on their own bodies, they can go to the healthcare providers and say, look, this is what's going on. And it's a little easier for that doctor to be like, to take them seriously and be like, okay, I see you really are bleeding a lot, or, your cycles really have been very irregular, or whatever it is. And that enable people to have more agency, around their own health journeys. So on an individual level, it helps in the meeting with the healthcare system, but maybe more importantly, it helps people understand their own bodies, because we find that many people, they don't remember maybe what they learned in sex ed, if they had any at school, or simply that what they learned doesn't actually reflect their own experience. So when women have more awareness, they can live better in their bodies. And my belief is that when you feel more at home in your own body, you have more of a voice in the world, or you have at least a possibility to have more of a voice. So it's both on the individual level. And then, of course, we have collected one of the largest data set on the female cycle in the world. And that is, of course, very interesting for scientists, because traditionally it's been data that's been very difficult to get. And usually the clinical trials have been done on white college students in America. So now we have a much more diverse data set, and that's really helpful because there are still so many things we don't actually know about the body, and there are things we don't know about sort of the body in relation to the world. How does pollution influence the female cycle, or many other things? So we've been able to share these data sets that have been, of course, anonymized with research institutions, and then learn something new. And then we have tried, I say we, even though I should also really quickly add that I'm not operationally involved anymore at Clue. I'm not CEO anymore. I
Okay.
I stepped down as CEO 3 years ago, and I've been on the board until a few months ago. But I'm still, I'm still a small shareholder. I love Clue still, and I care about the company. I say we because I still feel very much related, of course. But Clue has this philosophy that the data has been shared by women. Every data point has literally moved female health science forward. And we try to really take the knowledge that comes out of that work and share it back to our user base. So it's kind of a full loop where people who share the data also benefit from the new learnings. And then we hope that as we know more as a collective, they can also be met with better healthcare. So trying to sort of loop the advantages of that data sharing back to the community.
I heard that you actually trademarked FemTech. Can you tell me that
Yes.
story and the inspiration? And I mean, absolutely brilliant. Bravo.
Yes. Well, I have to give a lot of credit to my co-founder, Hans Raffauf, because he is probably the much better marketeer than the two of us. And I had come up with the term, and he said we should write a Wikipedia entry and we should trademark the name so that we make sure that nobody takes it and kind of uses it only for their own good. We wanted to make it a commons good so that it could be used by everybody building in this sector of technology.
Mhm.
And we did, and I think that's probably why anybody knows where it came from.
Yeah, extremely wise. So let's jump into, are you still currently writing a book, or have you written it? It's just being birthed. What's happening and what's it
Yeah.
about?
So the second I stopped working at Clue, I started writing down the story of Clue and the story of being a founder, but really also trying to say something about the broader sector of technology and venture capital in particular, and sort of link that to bigger societal questions. Because I've found a lot of stories of founders, though mainly male founders, but very few that kind of relate what they're doing to a greater context, sort of beyond their own company. So the book is pretty much written. I really wanted it to come out in the US. It has been harder than anticipated to find a publisher, because what I hear back is that I don't have enough TikTok and Instagram followers, which is entirely true because I don't have any. I have like 7 on each platform, probably.
I
So
deleted my
that has
TikTok
been quite,
account, so I understand.
yeah. So that has been quite sort of eye-opening in a way, because my question is, why would publisher choose the authors that have their own sales channels? Then what is the publishing houses actually doing? Because it's very expensive, of course, to have a publishing house. And I was like, well, then you can pay for your own professional editing and marketing and distribution. So that was my first reaction. Then my second reaction has been sort of, is the book actually the right format? Because of course you can, well, not of course, but in many cases you reach many more people through other channels like social media or podcasts, something else. So I'm sort of, the agent is still active. She was on holidays. Now she's coming back. I'm sure she's very busy. And she might also be successful, in which case, it'll become a book as planned. But I don't really know. It has been kind of surprising. Maybe I was very naive. But
I mean, I'm shocked. I'm not surprised that I have had that experience, but you being the mother of one of the most important
yeah,
terms and industries, and all of your incredible experience, it is mind-boggling. But I know that is
what's
how
really,
it
it's
works.
really, it's really, I feel it's like a loop in my life, because when we were out raising money for Clue, we would literally have tens of thousands of emails or messages from users saying, this has been helpful in my life in some version or another. And then I would sit across the table from an investor and they'd be like, why is this important? And I try my best to like, no, it really is important, but I just wish I could show them the voice of all these people that I knew were in my bag, saying this is important. And I have a similar experience where, people will reflect back, that it has been helpful, the work I've done. And it's not, the publishers are not saying it's not an interesting story, your book is crap. They could have said that too, but that's actually not what they're saying. They're saying you don't have enough name recognition, or you're not big enough on the social media platforms. And I'm like, yeah, that is probably true, but it's also not true. It's like that sense of like disconnect my brain. And then I saw this article that I shared on LinkedIn, which was the 43 books that have shaped the mindset of Silicon Valley. And I went through the book, and it's only men, almost only men. The few female authors are writing about males. And I was like, if not me, then somebody else bring in that perspective, because gender does actually matter, unfortunately. So there is like very few that have written something where they kind of put their own work into a bigger societal context, and also a critical book. And there are very few women, and there are just very few female founders that could write this book, because there's just not enough of us. So like, all things considered, I'm like, no, but this book really ought to be in the world, not because of me, but just like we need it. So then I'm thinking, well, I'll find other ways to get this done, or get my ideas or thoughts out. But so I don't know what's happening with the book. That's my honest answer.
Wow. Well, I have no doubt you're going to find a brilliant way to birth it into the universe. And it
I
is
hope so.
so needed. Yeah. I mean, I know that, but just for our listeners, 2% of venture capital goes to women. It's slightly better percentage if you have at least one male founder on your team. And it is a completely different, it's even a smaller number if you're a woman of color. And it's just absolutely crazy. So I'm optimistic, because there's just more and more women building their own table, building their own funds. And, that is my 10-year plan, is to have my own fund that funds entirely FemTech, female founded companies.
I'll send you some good portfolio companies. I'll help you with the deal flow. Maybe you don't need it, but
I would love to know, because you do have a book about your incredible travels around the world on motorcycles. So could you thread the needle? What did traveling around the world as a woman on a motorcycle teach you about entrepreneurship?
Yes. Do you have a lot of the drumming in your ears? There is a Turkish wedding going on here in Berlin, and I hear drums outside the window. But are you okay? I hope they won't stay forever.
Maybe now that you say, I can hear something, but not really.
Okay. No. We don't have that many drum parties going by the window. I don't know why that had to be right now. I feel I've been very lucky in my life that I've gotten to follow my sort of dreams and do what I felt was the most meaningful thing I could do in my life. And also things that felt quite challenging. And the reason why I went on my motorcycle trip through America, and I wanted to go to the deserts, and I wanted it to be a solo trip, was because I had this dream idea that if I kind of took most of my life things away, like most part of what made up my life, like, my clothes, my friends, all my belongings, my flat, my everyday life, and I could sort of boil it down to like the bare minimum and be in the desert, I would sort of become enlightened or something. Maybe not quite, but some, one step towards that direction. And I went, and I didn't have a list of phone numbers. I didn't have a plan. I just want good flow. I'll just like one day at a time. And I think it definitely taught me something that was helpful for entrepreneurship, because it taught me about being ready to deal with whatever comes, meet people, and know that you're very dependent on the help and sort of good nature of people, strangers that you meet. It helped me have the courage to meet myself and learn about dealing with being scared. And I think it gave me a sense of being sort of street smart, like reading people, understanding a situation, hustle a bit if you have to, and kind of and believe like it's gonna be fine. I'll find somewhere to pitch my trend tonight too. But this person is not gonna kill me with an axe. Like I think I read the situation right, and kind of also trust the universe a little bit, like because you don't really know what you're heading into when you start a business. I mean, and maybe that's a good thing. I definitely had no idea, and you don't know what you're heading into either when you start out on a long journey. Yeah, and this sort of a little bit stubborn persistence and like following your heart, I think is
Mm.
also actually a quality that's quite important as an entrepreneur, because a lot of people have opinions, society has strong opinion on what success look like, what is maybe a normal organization, what does a leader look like, how do you make decisions, like lots of things. We are kind of somewhat taught about what's normal or expected, but sometimes you you actually have better ideas, so you can learn to trust them.
Yeah. So I read this quote the other day, and love it. I love your take that bravery actually feels like fear.
Yeah, yeah. If you didn't feel brave, you weren't afraid to start with, then you're just doing your thing.
So what as an entrepreneur, or even, as a woman on a motorcycle in the middle of the desert by yourself, what can you share with us that helped you move forward in sort of a freezing sense of fear?
I think I've only actually once in my life felt actual physical freezing out of fear. It was a very strange experience. I'm glad I've tried it once, and I'm also very glad I haven't tried it more times. It was very unpleasant. But I think you find ways to resource yourself. Like when you have a really shitty day or something is hitting you that's really difficult, like learning to feel into what do I really need, what will actually like truly sort of build me up again, versus maybe just distract me or kind of
Mm.
soothe the pain. Like actually having also a little bit the willingness to go to that quite painful place and be what is this really, like actually look at it, feel into it, what is it really hitting that's actually painful. So maybe sort of learning to actually process things, because my experience as an entrepreneur is that there's so much happening every day. You have employees coming with things, there's investors, there's media, there's your own fear, there's your relationship, there's family. It's just like it's like a tidal wave every single day. So the ability to actually in a way digest things and let them land and not
Mm.
build up, but truly move them through the system, I think is quite crucial. So there's something about the not freezing, but actually keep moving it through. Like, yeah, that was scary, and then feel that it's scary until somehow it loosens up a little bit. And then what I also really learned is that courage is like a muscle. That's how I felt it. Like you train it, you get stronger. That thing that was really difficult yesterday, well, guess what? Today is actually kind of easy. And so you are ready for the next thing that's where, it's a little bit more difficult. And then that also gets easy. And you get stronger. The first day, on the motorcycle, and there was also a snowstorm,
Oh my
felt
goodness.
different. Yeah, it was like so bad. But I literally could not move my fingers. Anyway. But so yeah, that experience that things get easier. That's a cool feeling.
So what was or can you give us an example specifically in seeking funding for Clue? Something that the first chance or first encounter, it would have been really hard for you to believe that that would feel easy later or easier.
My very first pitch meeting was at the technical university in Copenhagen. I didn't have anything. I literally had like I had no Excel sheets, I had no financial model, I had no prototype, I had no concept description, I had no team, I had no timeline, I had nothing. The only thing I had was like, hey, I'd like to build this thing that could do X, Y, and Z. I have no idea what I actually said in that meeting. It's like still, when I know how much I came with later when we were pitching, months of work of preparation, and I have to give myself some credit for like stepping into the meeting and be like, hey guys, I have a great idea. What do you think? Give me some money. And what's really this is just life is like, I always feel like life is sort of comical or has like some humor to it, because I did get invited to the next meeting, which is in itself so strange. And then when I understood the financial model, I was like, what? This is such a shitty deal. I don't want this. Like, I was like, I don't want this. I also don't think they would actually have given me the money, but in a way, naively, like realizing my own worth in some way. Because later, like, oh my gosh, you take anything that you're given, right? It's so hard to raise money. But then also later, actually, the guy I had pitched to, he applied for a job at Clue. And I was just like, this is like, it's
Full
so,
circle.
yeah, full circle. I mean, I didn't have a position that fitted his profile, but it's just like, I don't know, life is just peculiar in that way. Like, you never know how roads turn and twist, and it's a good reminder to just be like a really decent person all along the way if you possibly can. Things come back. But I don't know, pitching never got easy. I don't think pitching ever got super easy because you have so much at stake. You're always running out of money. You feel so responsible for your employees and all your users, and you just so want it to work. And it feels so unfair. Why are they not valuing all these things we've built? And why are these other competitors getting so much money while we're doing so much cooler stuff? Like I think many people feel that. I definitely feel that. And like, people, I had people say, you got to dress better, or you need better glasses, or, there's always something wrong. You're like, oh my God, I must suck so badly at pitching, or I definitely think that it was a huge, important thing that I raised money with a man, and he was really good at all the social bits because so much of it is a social game that's so bullshitty. I mean, I don't think it got easier, both because like it didn't actually get easier to get the money home, but I also got more and more pissed at that system. I was like, what is this? And now I have some distance. I'm not pissed in the same way, but I think it's a very broken system. I have many ideas on how we could do better. So if you ever start that fund, I have some ideas, because I think it's such a
Oh, I'm
time
starting it.
waste.
I'm
It's
starting it. It's just a matter of when.
great. I love that. I love your conviction. That's really good. We need you to do
Well,
that.
I can't wait to read your book, or however you share it with the world, because I know you have so much insight. You I think it's so important, like you say, to really process our emotions and give ourselves space to get curious. Like, what is this actually coming up, and how can I alchemize it into an energy that's going to serve me? I'd love to know, like, what are some of the things that help fill up your cup at the end of a bad day?
I love the way you phrase that, how to become curious and how to alchemize the energy so it becomes, I think you said a learning or something, but good relationships, that is really important to me. I hate when there is like bad vibes between me and my dear, like close people. I don't thrive with that at all. Like in that sense, I like peace and harmony. So what fills me up, I doing a lot of therapy work has been really important as well. Like actually going super deep, as deep as I possibly could. And I have a teacher. I'm not a religious person. I don't follow any specific direction of sort of philosophy, but he is a spiritual teacher of sorts. And I feel kind of having like somebody remind me of like, how does human function? How does relationship work? What are we all coming with? What is ancestral trauma? How does, it's just like to kind of always try to see a little bit deeper when things get difficult in myself, in others. I also love dancing. Not so much to like pick me up when things are like really bad, but like to make myself ready for something really good. So when I was pitching together with Hans, my co-founder and ex-partner in life, we would often dance before. And I mean, we could literally be fighting. We had a pretty challenging relationship, but we would like, okay, now we have to do this. So that was one tool to like get ourselves ready. I mean, obviously nature, that's like a no-brainer. I wish I could say spending time with my kids, but I think that's actually not entirely true. I think spending time with my kids is often quite exhausting
I second that,
for
yeah.
a number of reasons. Uh,
At least when it's the end of my
I
day and I'm spent, yeah.
yeah, I do journaling definitely as a way to like clear my emotional turmoils. Yeah,
I love all
those are
that.
some of
So
my things.
you said you love to go deep. Is there something that you used to try and really hide from the world about yourself that now you embody and find it empowering to own?
That's a beautiful question. In a way, I want to say myself. I I think I've done enough deep digging and I've been around enough trauma processes to know that I've been very, very fortunate to actually not have a big trauma in my life. I mean, I think there are, things in my family lineage and definitely in Europe, living in Germany, like it's very obvious that there's lots of trauma still around. But I think I'm a Gemini. Not that I'm really into astrology, but I want to say like I think I was kind of shy. I was also totally not shy. But I was often like an observer because I think I was a little bit too old for my age. So I had grown up traveling on motorcycles all around the planet with my brother and my parents. I'd really seen a lot of the world, and I so sometimes I would have this sort of a little bit like the observer role, and people would be like, "What's up with you? Like, why are you just sitting there staring at us?" I'm like, no, it's like, um, and I think now I can feel more comfortable in a way sharing more of myself with the world.
Mm.
I can definitely also feel shy, but yeah, I think I would say that.
Yeah, I think in general, I mean, we're all so complex and made up of dichotomies and I think a lot of my work is giving women to be giving them permission to be both, like it's and
Yeah,
like the power in being able to sit in those two energies and
yeah.
utilize them to your advantage when it makes sense. And of
Mm,
course, I mean, I think one of the most powerful tools for education and is the experience of traveling globally. So I'm sure you're an
mm,
old soul from all of that experience and seeing,
mm.
understanding people from so many different lenses. Um,
It was definitely a big part of me. I'm not even going to say be motivated to start Clue, but it was like this idea came into my mind and it just took over. Like I didn't even have a choice. Like I had to do this thing. And I think part of that was having seen women's lives all around the planet. It just sat so deeply in me that women need to have agency over when and how many kids they have. Like every good developmental cycle starts with that. Like having kids at school, financial agency, like this, like all of it starts with women not having more children than they want to. Now I'm a bit older, now I might add, and having children when they want to, because I know people are suffering a great deal when they can't have the children they dream of. But back then I think it was the other end that really, it burned in me. And so I was kind of trying to escape, this idea, but I couldn't. And so yeah, I don't really
I
know
love
where
the
I was going
analogy
with
that I've
that,
heard you
but
share a few times. This analogy where you're like, we've managed to put a man on the moon, but we haven't managed to give
yeah.
women the power without like a chemical pill to understand when they could get pregnant and when they are. Yeah. And also that you talk about, I mean, it's such a strange reality that the majority of women have a cell phone, but don't necessarily have access to this basic care, like a medical system that serves them in that sense to support them
Mm.
in either getting pregnant or not getting pregnant, whatever they desire. So let's
You
come
know,
full circle. What's your hope for FemTech? This
mm,
this sperm you've mothered.
I feel it's this superpower that we have now where we can collect data, we have technology, we have a supercomputer, and we can use that to help us understand our bodies, help us understand what's ahead. We can do preventive things. We can get educated. We can communicate and share with people that are, wanting to care for us. We've just seen the beginning. I I truly believe that, I sometimes think of it as like we have this area that we can see in culture, like that's the area of culture that is where we have awareness. And then there is this area around it, which is sort of the shadow area, where it's the things that we can't really talk about and we're not really aware of them. A lot of female health have lived in that shadow area, right? We don't talk about it much. And there's still, like, for instance, today I had a call with an amazing woman in Australia who's a gynecologist, and she's all about heavy bleeding. And I got so educated. I was like, oh my gosh, all the things I didn't know about the 25% of women that have heavy bleeding and all the options of care that most people don't know is an option. Like, that's a whole world in itself. So we're like expanding what we can see, and then in this new space, we also realize all the things that are like, what? Like, that's painful. It's frustrating. It's not enough. It's not good enough. And then innovation comes in right there. And we're like, oh, but wait, like we could do this. We could build that and it would solve this. And this expansion is just incredible. And there's so much potential for like reduced suffering and business opportunity as well. And I feel that there's this sort of groundswell of energy literally all around the planet right now, where people are like, wait, I want to build this because it cannot be right that, so many things. And that makes me very hopeful because we have the tools and there is funding to be found somewhere. It might be hard, but like you will find it somewhere, maybe not everybody, but many people will find it. And so I really see this change happening, and I see public money coming in, and I see raised awareness, and I see men caring about this. And so there's innovation. Then we still need to figure out like the scaling and the distribution and the discovery. There's still many things that is like kind of lacking. Oh my gosh. But like overall, I feel the energy, and I've met these people, in Armenia, in Japan, in Australia, in Israel, in Europe, in America. Like they are out there in Latin America. There really is just thousands and thousands of people building this technology, and they're each making such a difference for so many people. I had another wonderful call with an entrepreneur out of Egypt who have built this platform for mothers. She's like, anything a young mother can eat, or a new mother, or even an old mother, or a second-time mother, all of us, they'll find discounts and groups and doctors and fitness and all, it's like a wide thing she has built. But she's serving like 50 million people every month. It's incredible.
Wow.
In brackets, she still can't raise money, which is just ridiculous. But it's like, and there are so many of these souls out there that are just burning and pushing and doing it. It's really amazing.
As you're talking, goosebumps. Thank you for leaving us with all of that. And it's just been an absolute honor to meet you and to have this conversation. I really appreciate your time. Is there any last little thing you want to leave us with?
Yes, actually, I want to say, sometimes I hear women say, built by women for women. And maybe at first glance that sounds great, but I really want to encourage us to say, built for the world by diverse teams. We so need the men to participate in this transformation, really, not just of the healthcare system, but of our lives. And we need them as co-founders and as investors and as, journalists and lawyers and supporters and team members. Like let's invite them in again and again. Let's talk to them about our life experience. Let's talk in a way so they feel included and can really understand what we're saying. It's very easy to talk in a way where it's like, oh, you have no idea, you've never had a period. But and I should also say, guys, if you're thinking about building something FemTech, you need some women. You need some women. If you're a male investor or even a female investor thinking about investing into a FemTech company and there's no women on the founding team or nobody in the C-suite, pause and ask them to do better, and then invest once they have included some women. But yeah, that's my,
yes.
I want to say that.
Yes. I totally agree. I mean, men are also trapped in these systems that are not serving us as humanity
so much. Yes, they need to be liberated as much as we do. And I don't think we'll have strong liberated women until men are too. So I'm grateful for the men that was part of building Clue. And often, I'm it's easy to sort of see me maybe in the media, but I co-founded with 4 guys, and they were all an important part of building this. And the many men that's been on Clue's teams, and the male investor who were very brave investing into this, and who made a conscious decision to say, in this particular kind of tech, we want to have a company where there is a woman. Because they were pitched by other people where there were no men, and they had made a conscious decision. And so investors make conscious decisions, have strong investment theses, and follow them. Actually, can I add one last thing that I really want to say? I want to say that's something I'm pretty passionate about, actually. I really feel that we need to redefine what success is. I feel we've allowed ourselves to say, if we make money, we're successful. I think the planet is way beyond that point. For us to say that anything is successful, it has to include planetary well-being. And so the term unicorn is a very shallow idea of what it is to be a successful startup. We need something much harder, which is understanding that we're part of a bigger system. So we need to redefine success. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we should call them butterflies. What should we call them?
Maybe butterflies, yes. So the LPs, whenever you get LPs into your fund, they need to give you a mandate to not only care about money.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, thank you so much. If anyone wants to publish Ida's book, they should reach out. How should they contact you? Do you want to be contacted, and how so?
Yes, I would love to be contacted. Well, I'm at ida10.com, or Ida, but it's spelled with an I. So yeah. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to meet you all on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your energy, and your time. And hopefully we'll be in touch for various things.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to Wellness is a Way of Life. Are you ready to make wellness a natural part of your routine? Let's stay connected. Go to meganswanwellness.com. Until next time, live well and thrive.